5 minutes, people.
Did Dave and Sheldon leave?
I don't know.
Do we have a
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Sheldon's online. Okay, Sheldon and Jim are both online. Great.
He's up there now. I was just worried.
I'm just looking for Dave. And D, right? And Jim's online, so we're good. Okay, we can get started because
It's 4:25.
let everybody else filter back in. All
Okay,
right.
so looking at the general fund contributions, all of these organizations
Hey
have,
guys, we're starting, please. Can we have it quiet? Thank you.
we've received policy 1200 forms from every one of these requests. And so I'll turn it to the council. What would you like to do?
Okay.
I'll motion for their approval based off of the recommendation.
Let me take a look at those.
Can I ask about the mayor's administration contributions, that 4,000? What is that?
I thought she just gave it back. No, it just says mayor's administration, other contributions.
I think it's just like yours. I have a little teeny amount to spread around. I think that's what
So
that
we can
is.
cut that, right?
Well, are you going to cut your own?
We just did.
Oh, you cut your 4,000s to like your
Well,
minimal.
we each get an office budget of 5,000, but that covers all our travel, cell phone reimbursement for our policy advisors.
Computers,
I would
everything.
defer to Michelle. I don't.
Michelle, can we cut that?
We cut 400,000.
Help yourself.
We don't ask her if we can cut it. We are the deliberative body.
That's
Oh
a
my
good reminder.
This is your
I
last
move that we
budget.
cut,
It's time that we leave on a
or
really
Arlen, can you
positive
put into your motion, we're gonna
$4,000
cut that 4,000?
friendship.
I'm just saying,
Come
this is
on.
how it's supposed to work.
I would ask the administrator of my budget, which is Michelle, and who needs to be in the room.
We're gonna cut that 4,000 on mayor's admin, the contribution. Just wanted to.
Are you asking me?
No, we're just
Oh.
letting you know.
What do we spend it on? If that's,
That's your,
I do think once in a while, I am invited to something and there's a fee. That's what I think. I really need to go. I bet I could probably not go. I don't know what it is I'm invited to.
Just tell them the council cut my budget and I bet they'll let you in
I
for
won't
free.
be able to.
This is very similar to your guys' contribution line item. If you remember a couple of years ago, it was, this line item was $20,000 and you cut it to be more in line with all of your contribution budgets as well. And so it's been cut, I think it
It's
was
called
2
death
years ago.
by 1,000
Yeah,
cuts,
I think it
but
was 2 years ago, you had cut it from 20,000 to 4,000 on Councilmember Winter-Newton's recommendation, or whatever they're called.
And I did return the remaining balance
This year.
back
Yeah.
this year.
We have two contributions that'll come out, and then the remaining balance of $1,500 will be returned.
All right, I'll motion approval of the contributions budget, minus the contribution line item of 4,000.
Second. Thanks,
Can
Arlen.
I maybe add one thing,
Sure.
if you're amenable? I just would like that, to add that Sundance provide an annual report outlining the economic, oh, sorry,
done it yet?
I rescind.
He just says all contributions.
Yeah, so this is just 110 is what my motion's on.
yeah,
Okay.
110 is all we're looking at.
I apologize.
Trying to keep us on our toes.
Just worth. Said.
I would cut the junior livestock. In honor of Jim, I'm not recommending we cut junior livestock this year.
that.
But if somebody
Oh,
does
thank you.
totally vote for it.
He totally heard you.
Hey, Madam Chair, can we call the question on that one?
Yeah, we're gonna call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
All right. Moving on to the opioid, so there isn't a change. In the mayor's proposed budget, the 400,000 was going to go for operating costs to provide services for individuals that had either mental health problems or substance abuse problems. And it was going to provide that kind of operational support at the University of Utah's intensive outpatient clinic. Instead, what the mayor's team would like is a $400,000 one-time contribution to remodel the outpatient clinic. And again, Bridget's here to opine on the appropriateness of that use of the opioid funds.
Madam Chair, I'm actually good with these three and would recommend that we approve these.
Yeah.
Second.
Awesome.
Now,
Hey,
just
Bridget.
to clarify, weren't we going to use opioid for DEA, or is that a different?
We're doing that.
We already are.
Okay.
It's in the base budget. Okay.
Good.
Bridget,
was
if you
a
don't
question.
mind. Yes, Bridget, if you don't mind just kind of reviewing what that is an appropriate use and all of that for us, please.
So based on the information that was just provided on the contribution form, I was unable to clearly determine whether or not it falls squarely within the list of approved uses. As you recall, all of the settlements that we have entered into with respect to the use of opioid funds have had restrictions on use. 85% of the money needs to go directly to opioid remediation and abatement. When I looked at some of the uses of the clinic as reconstructed, there was one item that talked about improving maternal fetal health outcomes, including those related to opioid use disorder. Now, the funds can be tied to co-occurring diagnosis, so mental health and opioid use, general substance use disorders and opioid use, and housing and criminal activity and the like. I was just unable to determine from the information that was provided to me on the electronic copy of the PDF contribution form to decide that these fell squarely enough within the scope of restricted uses. Now, that doesn't mean that there is not a business case that can be made for uses of the funds when you start to look at the subject population that is served by this particular clinic, what type of services could be expanded through remodeling the clinic. Just the information that Dave provided me, I couldn't give it a clear thumbs up. That does not mean that you all cannot independently determine how to use the money. I'm simply saying that when we use money that doesn't squarely fall within the use of funds as set out in the exhibits to the settlement, and we disclose those on an audit, which we have to do annually, somebody outside of Salt Lake County could not raise questions.
Okay, and that's on
I'd like to
which
provide some
item?
detail there if you have questions.
The last item.
That's the University of Utah Intensive Outpatient Clinic, and that's a remodel that you're looking at right now?
No, that's not a remodel.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, so the intensive outpatient clinic is, they're opening the clinic and expanding their clinic in the Rose Park area. Currently where they're operating is at the University of Utah. The focus is for folks who have severe substance use and mental health disorders. And then they also do wraparound services and physical health supports for them as well. At least half of the people who go through that clinic are on MAT, some medically assisted treatment for opioid use disorder. And then about 25% they're working with to prevent opioid use disorder, which is also a key portion within the settlement. The Super Ag clinic, the Children's Center, there is some connection to support some remodel there, working very closely with young people. So I think there are three different opportunities here. So the first one is something that you approved in June already, and this is just this is an ongoing funding of that was approved. And that
So
is
Kelly,
focusing
isn't
on
this a
mothers'
one-time
babies.
amount? I was under
Yes,
the
it is.
impression that you changed it from an operating budget that was going to be ongoing to a one-time contribution. Is that not correct?
It's a one-time contribution for operations and expansion. It's not for, it's
Okay.
one time as a bridge funding for operations going forward in a service model focusing on those who have opioid use disorder.
But we're not
And
sure
what-
that that's fully allowed by the,
It is fully allowed. I think that's what the confusion is about whether it's a building or whether it's operations. This is operational costs, and we have compared it to the settlement and connected. And I don't have it in front of me, but we have the language within the MOU for which it connects.
And as I indicated, when I said that didn't mean that there couldn't be a business case made for the use of the funds. Kelly has just made the business case. When she talks about the type of population served in this intensive outpatient treatment, specifically the percentage of those that are receiving medically assisted treatment, which is very much tied exclusively to opioid use disorder, I think that she has nudged this one across the line.
Okay, so Kelly, can you do me a favor then? I would love to see a report on this mid-year to make sure it is falling in line with that and what we understand it to be. And can we make sure that's on the June agenda?
Sure, of course.
Okay, because
We'll make sure that happens.
we want to make sure it meets those requirements. We don't want to get ourselves in trouble. So I'm not.
I think that with the clarification from Kelly and the green light from Bridget, I think you're in solid ground.
Okay.
So with that, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the 3 opioid treatment and prevention fund requests.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right,
Okay.
that passes.
So, and then the visitor promotion fund contributions for Sundance and for the Salt Lake Food Wine Festival. But I think, Erin, correct me, I thought they were going to do something a little different.
Are you on the Restaurant Association?
Yes.
Yes, they're going to begin a new podcast where they'll be highlighting local restaurants and restaurateurs in that belong to their association and highlighting those businesses. So I forwarded some additional information to everyone related to this. Dave, I'm sorry, I should have copied you.
So I would like to make a motion to cut the Salt Lake Restaurant Association's $25,000. I don't feel like I'm really happy with what I'm seeing the Utah Restaurant Association doing, where they're actually going out and making promotional materials for restaurants to be able to use to attract tourists. I'll be honest, a podcast doesn't do it for me. So I'm going to propose that we cut that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Winder Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember Theodore.
Aye.
Councilmember Bradley.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvord.
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison.
No.
Councilmember Granado.
Aye.
Councilmember Stringham.
Aye.
And I apologize. Did I get everybody?
No, I'm
Councilmember
no.
Bradshaw.
Excuse me. It's okay. No.
Okay. That's
So, the community councils. So the staff has looked at this and determined that there's underspend of at least.
Dave, we didn't address the Sundance.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sundance.
And I'll motion to approve the Sundance contribution. I think Suzanne has a comment.
I just at some point want to give everyone an update related to this item. I don't know. Now's the time.
I'm fine to let you speak before my.
okay. Let's have you give us an update on this. That'd be helpful. And then let's go
Yeah,
from
I just want to give a little situational update because you're all well aware that Sundance has gone out to RFP to other cities, including ours. We're one of 3 cities being considered right now. Visit Salt Lake's done an awesome job at coming up with a plan that would move much of the festival to Salt Lake County, still keep a little bit of glitz and pizzazz and some screenings up in Park City. So that is our proposal. There's been an incredible amount of work done by Scott Anderson of Zions Bank. More, I think, not so much given his role shifted a little of Zions Bank, but more as a community partner to identify a lot of major donors to basically say to Sundance, we value you being here. Interestingly, some legislators really appreciate, I find this kind of quite strange sometimes, given sometimes some of their positions, they like to lean into Sundance as our, hey, look over here, look how great they are, look how progressive we are. So oddly, there tends to be some legislative support and will likely be, as we look at the final package that'll be offered to Sundance. What I've said to them is, look, I can't bind future councils at big numbers to keep you here, and I'm not going to. I appreciate, I mean, I'm a product of Sundance. It was one of my first jobs in my career, and I had the honor of working directly with Robert Redford, believe in his vision, believe at what Sundance was and is. But from a county mayor perspective, we fill our convention hall day in and day out and bring in more revenue than Sundance. And while I believe the brand matters, I don't think it's as critical, frankly, as it once was. And I also believe, I'll be frank, that some of the board and many of the people who have come and asked us to bid have not really been as gracious, perhaps, as I think Robert Redford has been over the years, with a goal in mind, a very specific goal to advance the film industry. That's been what they've wanted to do, and Robert Redford loves Utah and wants the festival to be here. So I feel like we should and continue this support, that there will if they do stay, we're at the table in a different way. I won't be coming back with a budget recommendation for millions from this council, but because we do use our track fund for this, I would probably go up a little bit, and I've told them that I'd be willing to come back with maybe a 200,000 or in that amount, because we have to tell them what we might consider doing. So that's our commitment. I think the additional funding that Sundance is looking for is likely to be provided through the partner organizations that Scott is reaching out to, and the legislature, perhaps the governor and others. I think that we will benefit, but we are Visit Salt Lake, and I don't know that you'll see a bottom line shift if we're to lose them. I do think it's a brand loss and a loss for culture in our community, and I know a lot of our residents love it. So my hope is that they will say, yeah, we're staying, and they will really want to move forward with us. If that does happen, we're in a very healthy place, because there's been so much engagement and a lot of really good work that it's been done. And hats off to Caitlin doing that work under the Salt Lake umbrella. So I don't know if that helps at all, but I would recommend we continue this year until the decision's made.
And I just correct, it's TRT funding that we're utilizing, not track.
TRT funding.
Just be clear.
And Madam Chair, if I may, I would ask Arlen to amend the motion to just say that we should have a presentation from Sundance or get the annual report outlining the economic impact of the 2025 festival in Salt Lake County before funds are released. And so that would delay them getting the funding until we hear what the economic impact was in our county with the use of these funds.
We are happy to coordinate that with them.
And if Arlen's open to that addition to the motion, I'm a second.
Could I comment? Did you mean before these funds are released?
Correct.
Okay. So I want to share that they do and have in the past done a Utah-based study and analysis. And because the evaluation metrics are quite complex, they actually engaged the University of Utah at one point. I'm not sure that they are doing that level of study. So I don't know what they have. And I
believe it's been outlined in previous reports, the direct impact to Salt Lake County, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember there was some.
Yeah, they've presented here multiple times and have extrapolated some numbers.
Okay. I just don't know how comprehensive it is.
I mean, I'm excited that they're moving more of the events to Salt Lake County, but I feel given that these discussions are going on about an RFP, I would like a report from the festival about the impacts in our county prior to release of these funds.
I don't think that's inconsistent with policy 1200.
Then that's fine, yeah.
My second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion on this? Okay.
My understanding is Sundance is already receiving 130,000 from ZAP Tier 2. So is this redundant to give them another? That rounded out about 300,000. Can't we leave it to ZAP 2?
Do you want the history on this?
Just say it's doubling the money.
So they used to be tier 1. They
Yeah.
continue to operate at the same level of programming. They moved their headquarters to Park City years ago. At that point, the council determined we should not hold them harmless just because of the physical move of their office. So at that point, it was double. Yeah, but it was the previous level that they received under tier 1 because the economic impact is similar to a tier 1 operation, and they don't qualify. That's the quick history.
Well, they can move their headquarters back.
They may do. Who knows?
We're a lot cheaper here than there.
And then we have Ripple County tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be a tier 1 organization, that is one of the requirements.
Yep. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think we need a roll call vote on this.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Winder Newton?
Aye.
Councilmember Bradley?
Aye.
Councilmember Bradshaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Alvord?
Nay.
Councilmember Granado?
Aye.
Councilmember Theodore?
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart?
Nay.
Councilmember Stringham?
Yes. Okay. Passes. All right, next.
I was so anxious to get to the community councils. All right, so let
Here
me
we
go. So the staff has determined that there is underexpend for both Granite and Sandy Hills of around $500 to $600. And so the motion for this next year,
Is that after we allow them to leave some in the,
that's accounting for the
Perfect. I thought
the
so.
reserves.
Okay,
So
perfect.
the notion is that there would be an appropriation that recognizes the actual underexpend
Mm-hmm.
and that the council would approve an amount not to exceed for Granite of 9337 and for Sandy Hills 6894.
okay.
Move for approval?
Second?
Okay, a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, it passes.
So now we're back on the list where we started, kind of. And it's the district attorney's witness court and interpreting costs. And the request is for $130,000. This was denied in the mayor's proposed, as well as the prosecutor, which you did approve. So the issue is, what do you want to do? Are you willing to give this money to the DA, or are you asking them to absorb this cost?
I'm not, I guess I'm willing to let the budget stand on this one, so.
Yeah, so the budget default is to not fund this. We added this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We added it to the list, but yes, that's correct. The default is the mayor's proposed, which doesn't include these monies.
I did have some concern about the interpreting. I'm very interested that the district attorney is able to bring cases through quickly so that it can relieve our jail, especially with the jail bond not being approved. And so I'm surprising myself, but I'm going to actually make a motion to approve this funding.
I'll second that.
$130,000.
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
I have a softie for
Okay,
the
there's a
for the
second.
criminals to get through quicker.
Madam Chair, I'll support the motion. I just would also point out that the defense side of this equation has similar budget pressures. So there may want to be a consideration then to assist the LDA in the same way for the same reason.
Is that going to be part of the motion? Or-
I didn't make the motion.
I'll second that as well. That's a appropriate move.
Gotta read
Why
back
don't,
up.
why don't we have the motion I make pass or fail today, and then can the LDA bring us something? Or not the,
I'm sure they can.
Yeah.
I just know that that concern had been raised.
Okay. There you go. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote on that one.
Councilmember Winder Newton,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradshaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Granado, Councilmember Bradley,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart,
No.
Councilmember Theodore,
Aye.
Councilmember Alvord,
I
Councilmember Stringham,
They've kind of convinced me on this one. Yes. Okay.
Can I ask a question? I got this confused. I was thinking this was the e-prosecutor case management system.
We've already approved that one.
That one's already been
Yeah,
approved.
we approved that one.
Okay, I'm changing my vote to no. I'm sorry. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in
We're
no
not
on
finished
this.
yet. Okay. It still passes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. There are 3 items sponsored by the Office of Regional Development. The Housing Trust Fund for $711,000, the Research Collaboration for $50,000, and the Wasatch Front Regional Council Land Connection contribution for $300,000.
I move that we accept the mayor's approved.
Second.
can you remind me what funding source this is?
General Fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some of these I wanna pull out, but. Are you
Madam
wanting
Chair.
to do the whole list, Anne? Are you wanting to approve the whole list of regional development stuff?
No.
Oh,
Which one are you approving?
The
There's
ones that
The 3 items are
just
the
said 3
list.
items and those are the ones.
Housing Trust Fund, say 3 items. Housing Trust Fund, what's the other
Well,
ones?
the 3 that he
oh,
mentioned.
I didn't, okay.
So Housing Trust Fund, the,
Wasatch Front.
right,
So, Madam Chair, I'm fine with the transportation land use connection. I feel like that's really helpful for our cities. And the research collaboration, I'm good with, because I know sometimes you need survey or studies done, and if we have a contract with them, we can do it quickly. The Housing Trust Fund, I am 100% supportive of the trust fund itself. I just think this is such a tight budget year. I would want to roll that back to 250 for this year. I think it's good to put a little bit in to show that we are still invested in this as a concept, but I just don't want to do the
So
7-11.
is that a substitute?
That's a substitute motion.
And
So-
Madam Chair,
is there a second on the substitute motion?
Oh,
Yeah, we
I
didn't
was-
get that far.
Yeah, I have a second on the original, so.
so 250 for the Housing Trust Fund, 50 for the Gardner Research Collaboration, and 300 for the transportation.
Okay, I'm gonna let the mayor respond really quickly.
so I know this is a little bit unconventional, but I know there's an interest in our ongoing programs, and I've had conversations with a few of you. So if the council would consider, we've done a deep dive on impacts and looked at really county priorities, given some of the feedback we've received from a few of you. What we would propose is a discontinuation of the co-op program, and capturing that revenue, which is substantial. It's that 1.8. Continuing the incredibly important Granado Cox pre-apprenticeship program.
Sam
That particular
Granado.
program is truly amazing, and I'd be happy to share more. And then full funding of the Housing Trust Fund. So I just wanted to offer that before you look at the Housing Trust Fund, because I don't think there's a council member that would disagree that getting more match dollars out into the community is a good thing. It's just a matter of priorities and how much. So we would, and this is, I guess, let's make a deal as we get fatigued. The deal I put on the table, door number 1, 1.8 million back to the general fund the approval of the pre-apprenticeship and the housing trust fund. And then I would agree on the others as mentioned with the research collaboration, grant program. I think the Trax Ambassador program for a minimal amount is an act of good faith. Others have said differently. Solar for all is debatable. I say it's free state money and more solar, which is good for our community. But I think the ones that I am most interested in, and I think Dina and Catherine would agree, are the ones that I mentioned. So just throwing it out there.
Go ahead.
Well, could you give a summary of that again, the short version?
The short version is that we would eliminate funding for the co-op program, but continue funding for the Cox Granado pre-apprenticeship and the Housing Trust Fund. And then I would also add the other two that were mentioned, the transportation and land use and the research collaborative, and then allow the council to.
All right. And the Housing Trust Fund, was that as is or? Was
As
that a
is
change?
at 7-Eleven.
Okay, thanks.
Can I make a comment? And what's the total return on the co-op?
It is 1.8.
And does that co-op amount take us to the end of 2025? I mean, not to co-op, the apprenticeship program. Does that take us to the end of 2025?
2026.
So it's 2 more years left of that program. And then it's done unless it comes back to the council.
And that is the one that we are actually applying for a federal grant, Department of Labor grant, to try to find an exit scenario for that.
So that somebody else can keep funding it?
No, so
Is
that the
that-
county could keep funding it. If we were to get
right,
the money.
but
New funding.
right, new funding. Sorry, I didn't say that right.
I would say this is the type of program that we want to see grow and prosper, and we're seeing the escalation up in the success of the program. So my hope with this program is it is sustainable, but not under county dollars. More engaged, and I commit, because this is a priority project for me and my administration, to do more with our building partners, our trades, private donations, to make sure this program thrives in the community and we roll off in 2 years.
And it's sustainable because it's one of the few jobs that AI can't replace.
Can I, Madam Chair, can I talk about the solar program really quick?
Sure, why not?
So I called the state to try to understand what this was. And man, I know it sounds so awesome. Give people who are low income solar panels so they save electricity costs. Like, I totally get that. But I have solar panels and they're kind of a pain. And quite frankly, we've never addressed what happens in 25 years when we have all these solar panels that are going bad, and where are we going to dispose of them? Like the landfill? That doesn't, like, there is so, yeah, they won't take them. So it's like, while it sounds really good, I don't know, like, to give people who already have a lot on their plates, who are working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs, something else to worry about. And when there's issues, like, I don't know. And I feel like even the people at the state who have applied for this didn't have answers on some of these things. Like, well, so who's going to manage it? Are they calling Salt Lake County? And in 10 years, like, who's in charge? And while they'll have companies they contract with, like, these solar companies go out of business. I don't know. I just kind of feel like we're just giving people a big fat headache. And I feel like it's not a good way. You know, we've got this population who can qualify for, you know, circuit breaker and some of these other things. This just isn't a good, I don't like this grant program. I don't think it doesn't make sense to do this for this population when they need so many other things instead. So,
Madam
anyway,
Chair.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I respond? So, thank you, Councilwoman. One thing I just want to point out is this is a pilot program with the state. So some of the issues that you're talking about, you know, recycling or reuse or how are they going to manage, those are things that can be explored during that time period. And again, this is a program that the state came to us, asked us to participate in. We agreed this is not county dollars, right? So if this were to be denied as a budget item, it just means money would be going back to the state to go to other counties other people in other counties. So the program's not going to end. It just wouldn't be Salt Lake County's participation.
And honestly, I'd be kind of okay with that because I think it could end up being a huge headache for our county if down the road we end up getting stuck with repairs or other issues and helping people right size an issue that's come about because of it. So that's where I am.
Okay, Suzanne?
I would like to make a motion on what I think there's some consensus on, and that is approval of, oh, did I speak out of turn? Oh, I'm,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, we already have a motion right
There's
now
been a
that's
lot of
standing, but we're
motions.
allowing
Never
some
mind.
discussion
Carry on.
right now because there's been some deal making going on, so we're figuring that out.
I apologize, Anne.
I have a question about the housing trust fund. As far as that amount, like, what is that amount? I don't understand it. But and then you're willing to go a lesser amount. But in the past, I believe it was like 50,000 a year, right? I mean,
No.
we did the ARPA, right? So that was kind of a.
It was 25 million.
Yeah, we had
so
25
had a
million one
lot.
time.
So I feel like
Yeah.
we've
I can
loaded that
explain.
account for a while, right? But and we still haven't built everything that we've, you have the
No,
funds for.
we have
So
deployed. Yeah.
I want to almost pause a little bit. I mean, if you want to put a little bit, but you guys were getting what, 50,000 a year? before?
No,
Or 500? I don't know.
let me just
Sorry.
backtrack for a minute. Firstly, to answer the question, where did the $700,000 number come from?
Yeah.
710. You may remember we had a $1.1 million of something called the Regional Projects Fund. And that was a fund that the mayor's office came to the council every year and had to ask for an appropriation for specific projects. It had to be asked every year. Okay, so this year we came to the mayor's budget included basically a spend down of a certain amount in that 1.1, and it was the $300,000 in the WFRC TLC grant program, the two KEMC Gardner Policy Institute items, the membership and the research collaboration, and then the remainder was we just decided should be allocated to the Housing Trust Fund. So that's where that number came from. It was part of the 1.1. Now, you all may remember that you've now decided that the Regional Projects Fund isn't going to move forward, right? But what we've now decided is to have that money moved over into the ORD budget, and that $700,000 would be going into the Housing Trust Fund. But also to answer the question, I think you said 25 million was deployed, but it hasn't all been spent. That's true. But 25 million, I mean, this is an unfortunate comment, is a drop in the bucket with respect to the need in the community. We all know there is an acute housing affordability crisis throughout Salt Lake County. And it's not just at deeply affordable levels, it's across the spectrum all the way up to missing middle. So to the mayor's point, this is a priority issue for her. I think it's a priority issue for the state. I believe that Salt Lake County needs to be putting some kind of dedicated amount into this housing trust fund in order to continue this good work. It's a minimal amount, and that's what we're recommending today. Yeah, okay, I can talk about that. Part of this isn't $700,000 that then just would be deployed and that's it. This is money that gets put into a stack of financing. And I don't know if many of you were at the recent COG meeting where Wayne Niederhauser spoke so eloquently on this subject. He basically said, I'm sorry, I'm going to paraphrase him, but he said, look, I've been a developer, right? My whole career, this is what I do. When he first started doing the work that he's doing with the, homelessness initiatives, he basically said, I looked at these, pro formas and I penciled them out, and I'm telling you, affordable housing doesn't pencil in the, in the free market. You've got to have some kind of a government subsidy. And the idea is you don't subsidize the whole amount. You basically just incent, right, the private sector to invest, and then you pretty much come in at the end, right, and just top it off to make it pencil. And I think the point he was making is this is just good economic sense. If we do not get ahead of this crisis, we'll call it, right, things are just going to spiral more and more out of control, and it's real, and we can do something, and we all need to come together, private, public, right, et cetera, to try to make a dent in the serious problem.
My question on the Housing Trust Fund specifically is the projects that we funded now, are all those rentals or any of them home ownership? Because there's a big difference between the two.
Dina, you want to go up and talk? Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor.
None of the units that were funded with the $25 million are homeownership.
That's what I thought. So this is my struggle right now, because right now we provided affordable housing, but it's temporary affordable housing really, because that's not anything that they can build wealth in, own, or do anything. We have a dearth, and this is what he talked about in COG. We are missing that middle income and that lower income housing that you can own. We do not have that right now. And if our housing trust fund is only for that kind of housing and we can't build it's not.
No, of course it's not.
Can we?
The Housing Trust Fund mission is to preserve or produce housing units for low to moderate income families.
Right.
So if the council funds it at its full level that's being requested, which I might add is 0.036% of the total budget, it'll leverage about $14 million,
right,
based on our leverage ratio we have for the Housing Trust Fund for the prior monies. If there's a desire to do that, a couple of things are in the works right now. Condominiums are sort of the next horizon that we're all trying to figure out. The insurance issue on condominiums is what's keeping those from being developed in Salt Lake County right now. And the Commission on Housing Affordability is working, one of the subgroups of that group is working on how to solve the insurance problem so that that is more viable. Because that's really where we're looking is single family homes. If you look at the amount of green field that's left in Salt Lake County,
agreed,
there's not a lot. So really the solution's going to be in like a townhouse, which is also not a very dense, maybe 6 units per acre. But the real sort of golden egg is going to be condominiums that are in the transit and transit-oriented community developments.
Right.
And we can't fund those necessarily effectively until some of these regulatory issues are being resolved. So
my
it doesn't
concern,
keep us though.
Well, here's my concern. My concern is, I know all that.
Yeah.
My concern is though, those are in the process of hopefully being solved, but that land is being eaten up by rentals right now. And honestly, I've not seen any development where they're even talking about doing this in that corridor, in those areas that are naturally low income that make sense for this. And it isn't currently in the plans. I would love to say that this housing trust fund right now that we have set aside would go towards home ownership of whatever form that needs to take. And that's what we start looking at specifically, because we don't have enough of that. We now have more. Matter of fact, one of the things he talked about is our rental is now softening. We're finally seeing the softening of the rental environment. So let's not build any more rentals. Let's start looking at some home ownership.
I want to clarify. It's not let's not build any more rentals. It's where are those rentals being built?
Sure.
That's part of the issue. I think there's probably an oversupply that has started to develop in Salt Lake City, but that's not where the real critical need is. It's in Taylorsville and West Valley City, West Jordan, right? So a couple of things I would.
The greater critical need, he made that point, was home ownership.
Absolutely. And I can tell you research that our own economic development team has done has shown what are the costs related to the inability to create single family homes. Part of it is land cost.
Yes, I understand
So
that.
what we'd love to see, which our housing team just participated in, we were one of 8 counties throughout the nation with NACO to look at how do you really start doing that public asset initiative piece.
Right.
And looking at where is the land you can purchase less expensively, or cities can contribute it, or counties can contribute the land to that capital stack that Catherine talked about in order to bring those costs down. I'll tell you, Steve Waldrop's trying to figure out the same thing.
Why not?
There was legislation passed last year that really turns the state of Utah into a central bank that looks at producing 1,100 square foot, like starter homes, like the starter homes we used to see in the 40s and the 50s. Those aren't being produced anymore.
Right.
But what we know from the development community is those cannot be produced profitably. So that's why they're not doing it. It doesn't have anything to do with sort of what the county is or is not doing. We have to deal with the market forces, the reality of what's happening in the market.
And I understand that.
So,
I
but
would
there's
love to see
nothing-
that lean though into using the housing trust fund to lean
Madam
into
Chair,
more of that.
May I interject? Sorry to
Yeah.
jump in. I hear you. There's actually are opportunities in order to use the housing trust fund for example, townhomes, a classic example. We could, Dina, correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, this is free jazz. When we have our applications that come in for new projects, is that something that we could look at as for a favorable, right, application criteria of expanding beyond rentals to?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I recognize rentals are important. Don't get me wrong.
No, they are, and that's the piece I want to make sure.
But when we started seeing the numbers that they presented,
Point well
that thing,
taken.
it was clear that we are missing a
Point
whole
well
segment that
taken.
nobody's
It's not
looking
as
at
if we
right now.
don't need to help rentals as well. We do,
But we need to
nevertheless.
recognize that if that's what you want, then the whole $711,000 is probably going to be necessary.
Oh, I understand.
And how we would handle that practically is that we would put in our scoring criteria that we do for the Housing Trust Fund. We would put in that any applications that bring an ownership product to us for consideration would be scored much higher. So that's how we address those policy issues. So
Right.
there's absolutely methods that we can follow.
And I understand that. That's why I'm asking the questions
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
The other thing I would like, and I'm going to ask for in January, will you please make the same presentation you made at COG for the council? That was really, really good. And I think it'd be helpful to the council understand the research and stuff that's being done and what's happening right now.
Just as a teaser, it's the Who Owns Salt Lake County.
Yes,
It's a
it's
look at
fabulous.
corporate ownership.
Really, really, really interesting.
And how it's changed from
Yes.
2018 to 2023.
I just wanted to add, I'm one of the county representatives on the Housing Connect, which is our Salt Lake County Housing Authority. And I think the Housing Authority, at least Housing Connect, is aligned with your position as it relates to home ownership and the ability to build wealth, and is looking very strategically at a number of developments that are being considered right now as some possible mixed use opportunities for both these apartment type complex or rentals, but also in addition to that, some of these townhomes type concepts within the same development that would allow us to do both. And so I just wanted to share that is an area of focus that we're engaging in at Housing Connect as well.
And then let's also talk about ways to protect the home ownership low income areas as well. So, I have
The deed
ideas on that.
restrictions.
Yes,
Yeah.
the deed restrictions and the new zoning. So
great.
So does that answer your question?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Dina, is there a printed presentation from what you did at COG that you could mail out to the council?
There's not printed because it was a dashboard, an electronic dashboard. So
Oh, it's
we'll,
fascinating though.
we'll make arrangements to have Lincoln Land Institute, that's the partnership we did, their Center for Geospatial Solutions, talk about this who owns Salt Lake County and what the changes have been over the last 7 years, 6 or 7 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you guys willing to keep the Renato apprenticeship program?
The motion on the table is to fund the first three items.
I'm willing to fund it for 1 year. But
I'd like to call the question.
The question is on Ann's motion,
Let's
which is to fund the previous regional project fund project. So anything with an RPF in front of it is included in Ann's motion.
yes, that was Ann's
Okay,
motion.
fine.
So just a
not
question
the whole list,
with the proposal from the mayor, were we intending to fund co-op anyway?
No.
Or did she offer us something
But she knew.
okay,
So
all right.
Sure.
I just,
She's playing her cards right. I don't blame her.
This is in every program.
I think that would have to be a different motion because that wasn't.
That's not part
We're
of
just
hers.
doing these first.
but it's,
But I think
but the deal was we'd give her everything if she is,
I'm happy to make that
agreeable to-
motion to cut it in a second, but I
okay.
think we just have to vote on this. I think there's consensus.
But
So-
this is to fund it all.
And it's just to fund those first ones that are highlighted right now.
But you didn't want to do all 7-Eleven.
I changed my mind. They wore me down. What can I say?
Okay.
No, it really
I'm
is.
still strong.
Honestly,
I'm sorry.
no, here's the thing. Honestly, this 7-Eleven is not enough, really, right? I mean, it's a great program. What Dina's doing is awesome. It's a tiny, tiny amount compared to what would be great to be able to invest in the community. I love the comments that were made by council members. So I'm okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
very much want this vote to move forward, but I just want to make one clarifying comment and speak to Councilman Albert's question about co-op, because these are somewhat being conflated. There is actually a occupied position, time limited FTE in that co-op program. What we would ask is that we could keep that person in place for the first quarter of next year? 3 months? 3 months?
The first three.
I know, but Mayor,
When I say you've worn me down, you should take the vote. That's like my
We do
advice.
have a motion on the table.
I'm going to call the question on the motion really quickly. Let's go ahead and take a vote and we'll come back to that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed.
Nay.
Opposed.
Okay. We have 2 opposed. Do we need to do a roll call? Okay, roll
Okay,
call.
was that for the question or was it
was Dave
call the
Sheldon.
question or was it for the
No,
actual-
I called the question so we can just vote.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what
We just voted. But we're going to have to do a roll call vote, so we'll do that right
So
now.
the reason- And just as a reminder, the reason why is countywide policy on electronic
I
meetings.
understand that. I know.
Councilmember Bradley,
Aye.
Councilmember Bradshaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Winder Newton,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison,
Yes.
Councilmember Theodore,
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart,
No.
Councilmember Alvord,
Nay.
Councilmember Granado,
Aye.
Councilmember Stringham,
Yes. Okay, that passes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we take the mayor up on her kind offer to eliminate the co-op program with the exception of allowing that FTE for 3 months. That is my motion.
Okay, that's all.
Would you like
that
to
you're
make-
just including? Is just
It's just
Just
the
the
one.
one, unless you have a, I just think keep it
So I'll,
even.
I'll second Suzanne on that.
Okay. So a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Hallelujah. Let's go.
Well, I don't know where we're at on this, but it sounds like we're gonna take the rest of them one by one. So I'll just motion approval of the Tracks Ambassador program.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this one?
I just have a comment. I don't see the value in this. Maybe like towards the Olympics, when the Olympics comes or something, I can see this being more productive use of funding. I don't know, but I kind of a no on this.
So this is from fourth quarter funds, right? Okay,
Correct.
so this isn't general fund dollars.
I know that.
Yeah. No, I knew you knew that. I'm just reminding myself.
That's
of that.
okay. I'm being tongue in cheek. All right. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Well, this is going to have a mix. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Alvord,
Nay.
Councilmember Theodore,
Nay.
Councilmember Granado,
Aye.
Councilmember Bradshaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Bradley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart,
No.
Councilmember Winder Newton,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison,
Aye.
Councilmember Stringham,
No. Okay. That passes.
Then, Madam Chair, I will motion approval of the Solar for All States grant,
Will they wear a sash?
recognizing that low-income individuals could really be helped by lower utility bills in the short term.
Second.
Second.
I'm going to ask a question on this because it's my understanding that they have to have a roof that is newer,
5 years.
5 years.
Okay.
And I'm just going to point out that that is not within the realm of most people out in my area's ability to afford. And those who are within the range of affordability for this, I don't know how many people are going to apply for this. I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
going to be
you're
blunt.
asking a
I can't
technical
afford
question
to.
that
I
I
literally
can't
looked at
answer.
this and went, okay, I actually fit this demographic right now.
Right,
And
right.
I could not afford to do this. And my roof is 10 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
I might see a savings from it,
Mhm.
but I would never fit this category. I couldn't afford it. So for me, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my neighbors, our houses are older. So it either has to be a newer house, right, to begin with. So either you're going to be helping those who are just getting into a newer home that has a newer roof, or somebody who absolutely has to replace the roof. Do we have a roofing program that we're going to partner this with or whatever? Because I'm not seeing where this is going to be beneficial for hardly anybody, to be honest. So I'm throwing that out at you because
Not the role of the county.
Yeah, and that's where I'm struggling with this, is I'm
Madam
not
Chair, can I
seeing.
just
Yeah, go
suggest
ahead.
we vote on the item and
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, let's vote.
All right, we're called the
I
question.
think everyone knows where they're at.
Yep. Okay. All in favor? Well, actually, roll call.
Councilmember Stewart,
No.
Councilmember Winder Newton,
No.
Councilmember Alvord,
Nay.
Councilmember Bradley,
Aye.
Councilmember Granado,
Aye.
Councilmember Bradshaw,
I.
Councilmember Harrison,
Aye.
Councilmember Theodore,
No.
Councilmember Stringham.
No.
Our first partisan vote tonight.
It's true.
How about that?
Over
Solar
grant
panel.
funds of all things. I was thinking the same thing.
There you go.
You can't.
Give it.
Okay, next.
And Madam Chair, I will motion approval of the Cox Granado pre-apprenticeship program.
I'll
Second.
second it.
I'll let Ann second.
Thank you.
Can I ask for clarification on that?
Yeah.
That this is general fund money we are funding out of, and it's not TI funded anymore. So the 2026 amount that's part of this is general fund money. We want to make sure that's really clear.
But we're just working on the 2025 budget.
Well, right now, she's
This
actually
is- it
asking
is
for
2-year
2 years.
funding,
Okay.
But I mean, TI and general fund are.
But it
that's
would
fine.
come back
So-
next year.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can I ask
that's
a question?
correct.
So you would come back
That's
next
fine.
year. correct?
It's, well, no, I mean, it is essentially, the TI money is general fund money. ARPA has been, we've cleared it off our books. There's no more ARPA money. So anything that was washed into the general fund we called it TI just to make sure that it was time limited.
But it would be an item to come back next year if they chose.
I would say every item is an item to come back
Yeah,
next year,
exactly.
right? So yes, I think it's semantics at this point. We can agree to that.
Go ahead.
What if we just did this for one more year? Does that give you enough to feel good about that and kind of see where you can get some federal funds and all of that? I mean, this is a lot of money in a tight budget year.
Mayor.
Like if we cut it in half
I
and
would say, let me say this. The ability for this program to impact our community is game changing. We're not there yet because this was intended to be a pilot program. What is amazing about the opportunity that, frankly, the recovery funds allowed for us is to do and lean into new programs that really meet the need of community building. And one thing that we've all identified as a need in our community is the niche of people that aren't headed off to four-year college. And Laurie, you talk a lot about neighborhoods and need and communities. And frankly, I'm not sure that how many of them are actually Kearns residents, but we know that there are people in the community that
They're
are
all
leaning
over.
more into the trades. But yet when they're not quite ready because perhaps in fact, very women focused, but men too apply to this program and are accepted. When the last event I went to, and a representative of the White House came to town, Tom Perez, and went with us to this program. There was a woman who was a Native American woman who had young children and she was going into welding. Another woman had sadly some time in our county jail. She came out of it and was now thriving, going into another trade. So it's really, I think, an opportunity not just to lean into the labor unions and their trades, but to actually take this to the construction industry and to various sectors of our economy and really lean in. And it's relationship building. So what I intend to do over the next year is foster those relationships with your help. I want to go and talk to all of the larger, the Layton Constructions and the bigger builders and lean in more to all of the workforce programs because the brilliance of the pre-apprenticeship program, I didn't even understand this when this terminology was first used, but it's those basic skills that people, because they're in disadvantaged positions, they're left behind. And it's not just quote unquote poor kids. It's kids that just might have had a challenge in their life. You know, and I think that these are kids of sometimes all walks of life that just get left behind, and all of a sudden they don't have the basic math skills to become an electrician. The trades, you know, are very sophisticated operations, and to be a successful apprentice, you got to have the basics covered. And I know a lot of kids, even from very privileged homes, who just never were able to do well in math. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's a really good career for me and I'm not ready. So I have a lot of personal commitment to this program. Can we get that all figured out in 1 year? I hope so.
So let me.
But don't cut it off for sure. Let's
Yeah, yeah.
we can try.
So one of the things that is appealing to me, and I'll be honest, like we want to do the things that we do at the county, and we want to do them well. If we get spread too thin, where we're getting our hands in all these other things, it's not sustainable. And sometimes we're overlapping into what other governments are doing. So for instance, the state's they have an apprenticeship Utah program. They also have a pre-apprenticeship program. But you guys made this point, the pre-apprenticeship program is targeting students and younger people. And what you guys are trying to do is target an older population, which I don't see the state doing.
No, there's nobody doing that.
So
to be clear
I
about
like that piece of it. I feel like we just keep wanting to creep into other areas though that I don't think is our role. So I'm fine to fund the 2 years in hopes that you guys can get federal dollars to take it
on
over.
my list, we talked about other things we've passed, like ships in the night on this point. I would love, given you're an employee of the state and others, I know, Laura, you're interested, and you can help us as a advisor on the side in your free time. But like, if you have a passion for this, like, let's go engage more directly with workforce services this year. It's on my
That's a
list.
big
Tina
one.
and the workforce team are doing work right now, but we need to do that mapping with them. And that's where I mean, if we can get the state and we can blend and we know that there's execution in a way that benefits our county through state workforce services, like that, I would love to do that.
The state is great at programs for youth in school. The state is terrible when it comes to programs for helping retrain people outside of that area. And there's a huge gap right now in workforce development for people who are underskilled or who needs additional skills. You know, so you've got a whole group of people that if they could get retrained, could actually support their families, could do things, but they don't have the resource or the ability to quit working what they're doing now and get trained enough to be able to do something with their life.
Yeah.
We see that all the time.
Madam
Right.
Chair,
Let's
can I
vote.
sounds like this is moving well, but I just want to throw one data point out, which is we don't have all of the data on increased income yet, but based on hourly wages of full-time employment of 40 hours a week, we're estimating that 5 apprentices increased their income by 277%. So we're already demonstrating progress on this program. To your point, it's targeted, right, so that we're not duplicating efforts, right? We're adding to the pot. So in any event, just wanted to share that with you.
Well, and if you need a visual, the program that the mayor put together, if you had seen this 5'2" woman crawl up into a 3-story tall road grader and move it out to the construction zone, you'd have been amazed.
Call the question.
Yep, call the question. Okay. Let's see. Who was my motion and second on
I
this
made
one?
the motion and with the second.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I had that down right. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, roll call.
Opposed.
No problem.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Winder Newton?
Yeah.
Councilmember Bradshaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Alvord?
Nay.
Councilmember Stewart?
Nay.
Councilmember Granado?
Aye.
Councilmember Theodore?
Aye.
Councilmember Bradley?
Aye.
Councilmember Stringham?
Because this is funding it for 2 years. Guess I'm an aye. I'm bringing it back next year to relook at it. Okay.
We had already.
Yeah, so I think that finishes ORD and moves us on to human services as it relates to deferred maintenance at Sunday Anderson Senior Center. and the renovation of 10th East Senior Center, which I can promise you I get a lot of consternation from people in my district wondering what's going on with that. My understanding on that one, at least, is it's simply a rebudget. Is that, and I don't recall why either of these are on the list, but I'll make a motion to approve both.
I'll second it.
Can we clarify why they were on the list, please?
I think the notion was that it's been a long time and there was concern about what was happening and how money was being used. And we did get information from the mayor's staff as to what was causing the delays and what hopefully will be addressed quickly in the future. So.
Okay. I did have one question on that. What was the cost delay to us on these? I mean, because we couldn't go out when we first did it, what was the cost difference on that?
I mean, the 10th Street.
I know for 10th East, they ended up needing to rebid the contract.
Oh, that's right. That's a rebid.
We're working through the LEED Gold issues as it relates to that project. Because it's a significant remodel, it is required by county ordinance to meet the LEED Gold piece. We're having a difficult time with that on a remodel of an older building, and we're revisiting that piece prior to going back out to bid.
It's also a very unique architectural building, so it's a bit of a gem within our senior services, and I think it's just a difficult project.
So it's a LEED Gold, but
because it's a significant remodel, by our ordinance, it's required to meet LEED Gold, and we're having a hard time getting to that standard.
Do we need to get a break on that for a historic building? I mean, because we've done that before.
Yeah, we're looking at that. Okay. And we'll come back to you when we have a sense of whether or not we can make it. But that's been the challenge.
Because, I mean, if we're talking about lots of money to make it LEED Gold versus get it done and let's have something that everybody can use.
Yes.
Let's make an exception because people have wanted this done for a long time.
Haven't we been promising the residents this for 4.5 years?
It's been a little bit, yeah. And we've worked with the community on the design and all the work. And yes, we're just trying to refine this last piece.
Okay. Well, let us know if you need to come on there. Yes, go ahead.
So I'm the one that also raised some questions with this because I don't think all things were being created equal, and I don't know that I ever got a response related to these senior centers.
Oh, that's right. He had a question on how are we managing this? Who's running it? Who's paying for what? Are certain cities helping to pay for some of these, or some of them not helping? How does that work?
Well, I'm happy to send a spreadsheet that outlines that for every individual piece. It's happened over 50, 60 years, and sometimes we know the history and sometimes we don't know the history.
Right.
But there are situations where the city owns the land. For instance, at 10th East, Salt Lake City owns the land, we own the building. They're unique situations based on the needs of the community at the time and what was agreed to at the time. But Councilman Stewart, I'm happy to forward that to you if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I would like that.
There's a lot and it's complicated.
Yeah, I thought that's what I requested last time.
And I apologize. I thought it had been sent to you.
Okay. Thank you. And do you mind sending that to me too? I'd love to have that.
I'd be happy to send it to the entire council.
That's a good idea. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say, roll call it. I just roll call it.
Councilmember Bradley.
Aye.
Councilmember Theodore.
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart.
No.
Councilmember Alvord.
Nay.
Councilmember Granado.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yes.
Councilmember Winder Newton. Aye. Councilmember Bradshaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Stringham.
Aye. Okay, that passes. All right, next.
So at the council's request, the mayor's staff reached out to the track board with two proposals. One was to increase the offset for the track fund against the general fund from 42 to 45%. And the other one was to finance a hygiene product at facilities, mainly rec centers. And the adjusted cost of that, after discussion amongst the council, members, and mayor's staff is about 94.5 thousand. And the additional revenue realized is nearly 2 million. And they both were approved by the track board.
I'll just make a comment on the facilities, the feminine hygiene products. We had kind of decided, and I don't know what that number includes, but to do, I think 68, just the women's restroom and locker rooms with toilets. And then we have an ongoing amount, but we actually think we're going to get a grant for the dispensers. So I'd rather have just the ongoing amount for those 68. Is that the number, Robin, that's the original. I can pull up your
46,000 would be for the products ongoing, about 45.7.
Amy,
but we changed the number, I think, of
I believe that reflects the most recent numbers.
that's the 68. Whatever it was.
Amy, would you be amenable to having that be contingent upon receiving the grant? Because
Sure.
the track board did approve it, and I'd hate for us to just be up a creek if we don't happen to get the grant. So could we just make it contingent upon receiving the grant?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Awesome. But I'm just making sure, is that the number that we said? How many facilities is that?
I think it was 68 facilities, and I don't remember.
It is the
exact
68? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for being open to that change.
Yep.
May I ask the timing of the grant? I'm sorry.
We're still working on it. So we
Okay.
may or may not get it, but we've put in a request for it.
So you'd like us to hold off on implementation until we know?
I would. I mean,
We'd like to pursue
decent
the
amount of
grant
money.
first.
No,
and get
understood. I
somebody
just wanted to
else pay
clarify.
for it first.
Yeah, we're keeping Robin in the loop on all that.
Okay,
So.
great. Thank you.
I need a motion.
So I move that we
Recognize this.
recognize this, and with the effort to pursue this grant for the feminine hygiene products. And if the grant is not approved, we accept the funding from track.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Harrison,
Yes.
Councilmember Winder Newton,
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord,
Yes.
Councilmember Theodore,
Yes.
Councilmember Granado,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradshaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradley,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Stringham.
Yes, unanimous. Okay, awesome.
Okay. So then the normal motion, which is that if we will incorporate all of the changes made by the council, the mayor's budget is the default. If something wasn't discussed or voted on, then the mayor's budget would be the default. I would also ask, for example, with regard to the 3 months for the FTE, that you allow staff to make modest changes consistent with the intent as we understand it, and we would bring those to your attention.
So
Madam
moved.
Chair, seconded.
I have a motion and a second. Did you get that? Motion by Suzanne, second by Ireland. Okay. Motion and a second. I was going to ask all in favor.
I think we can all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
And a huge thanks to all
Hold
our
on.
staff.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you to all our staff, fiscal agencies. This is a ton of work, and we really appreciate your work.
Thank you, council, and happy holidays.
Okay. So we do need to set the public hearing, 5-1.
that's
We still have business, guys.
Oh,
Don't
that's
take
right.
off yet.
Madam Chair, I will motion approval of item 5.1, setting the public hearing for December 10th at 4:00 p.m. on executive county officers' compensation increase.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Madam Chair, I'll
Any
motion
opposed? Okay, go.
approval of item 5.2, setting the various public hearings related to the county's various budgets and associated entity budgets for December 10th at 6:00 p.m.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And 6.1.
Madam Chair, I move approval of item 6.1.
Okay, so that's a consideration of a public hearing set.
So that is the resolution that puts on display the budgetary decisions you just made all throughout the day and throughout the month.
Okay. All right. I have a motion and I have a second, correct? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then consent.
Madam Chair, I move approval of items 7.1 through 13.1, which includes approval of council meeting minutes from November 5th and a notice of cancellation of December 3rd meeting.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. With that exception, we are adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.